Okay, hey, welcome back to Soul Invictus. I want to welcome you to my channel here. This is a new channel. I have a different channel that I kind of came from to put this type of content on, so it's all related and all relevant, not getting put into gaming section. So that's why it's here. But welcome you to my channel, and I hope you have a good stay. If you want to talk with me about anything, please feel free to. Whether you agree, disagree, let's have a civil conversation. We'll go from there. But tonight, I wanted to talk about something, and this is one thing I want to talk about is vampiric spirits in people, in my life, in your life. That's something I wanted to talk about. And so I see this a good amount with other people, and this could be slightly within you, this could be slightly within your friends, slightly within your family, but this vampiric spirit that's sort of in your life, it's basically a draining spirit, just like a vampire. It sucks your blood, sucks you dry till you bleed out and you die. But in a spiritual sense, it's there to drain your energy. You're starting to feel good, you've got everything going your way, and then this guy or girl comes out and like, no, you're not, you're blah blah blah, and rah, rah, rah. And then you feel like crap. That's basically it, right there. And so you have these kinds of people in your life, and this is a hard thing to get rid of. And if you've been doing this for a long time and you haven't totally recognized it, but you kind of think maybe you are a little bit, you probably have this vampiric spirit buried within you. And you got these little thoughts that, oh, I'm going to do this to this person to make them feel like crap, because that's going to make me feel good. That's just dark energies that have gotten into you. Now, a lot of people will say, well, this is mostly, possessed people. I mean, you could look at the people that have been possessed, and they're shouting Satan and, talking Latin backwards and all this crazy stuff. Yeah, they've gone to the deep end. They've gone down the wrong void. They're in the deep pit. They've accepted spirits within them. Now you might say, well, they didn't necessarily do that. They just got possessed. People don't just randomly get possessed. Within their own mind, you are your own person, and you decide to accept certain concepts or certain ideas, practices, beliefs within yourself as you live. Most people that are really into the sociology type of thing are like, well, United States is like a melting pot. Everything that happens to us just happens to us, and we just become what we're molded into. Now, those are the people that let that happen to them. They don't do anything to prevent it. They don't escape from it. They don't fight back. They're like, oh, and then everything just crushes them. The whole world around them just crushes them because they gave up. And these vampiric spirits love to feed on anything good that's going on in your life. They'll find something and they'll just latch onto it like a leech and suck it out, because they can't. Here's the thing, that's the reason why these evil entities and stuff exist, because these entities that exist have existed for a very long time. Now, where they came from, how they ended up being what they are, it could just be random energy of some kind that decided it needed to survive because it didn't know how to produce light. Just like when I read the Bible and I read certain things Jesus was talking about, it didn't know how to bear its own fruit, so it becomes this negative energy. And you'll see this in some other, it's funny when I watch stuff like Supernatural, which is kind of funny, and it's, I'm not going to take everything from that as absolute, but it's kind of funny when you see that in there, when you see these vampire spirits. They're just latching onto you. They need that source to survive, and they show some of that in there. They show it in other fables and myths and all that. I think what ended up happening was that some of the fallen angels were the angels that could not produce fruit. They could not produce the fruit they needed to get bigger and be creative, create other worlds, create other entities like them to be good. That's the reason why when we hear about, Lucifer fell to the world, that's the reason why I think the world is basically owned by the devil, or at least it was for a certain amount of time. It was leased to him. Just like one of the parables where Jesus is talking about, you know, the seed wasn't planted by him, but it will be harvested by Jesus. So it was, like what they say initially, that the devil owns the world. The devil raises Jesus up to the top of highest mountain in the world, and he says, you can have all of this if you just bow down before me. Which basically means at that point, before Jesus even came into play, the devil owned everything. All those wars, all that destruction, all that sorrow, it was all on him. He wanted it to be like that. And he had full control. Nobody was there to stop him because it was his from the start. So I think when, he produces other things, he can't produce the fruit that we could. This is the reason why Jesus is here, because he's like, yeah, I got to stop this. I got to come down there. I got to stop this. I got to help these people out that, need to go up. That's why when he died, it's sort of like a way that he sort of tricked the devil into either being pushed into the earth and lifted everybody up out of hell that should have been in heaven. It's like he goes down, they go up. The amount of power needed to do that was such a flux that something that powerful had to go down in order to go up. So maybe his whole death scene was a way to trap the demons down there to raise everybody else up so that they could go up to heaven, that were good, that were trapped here. And so, you talk about these vampiric spirits, and I think it's a part of these fallen angels. They have created smaller entities of themselves, sort of cloning themselves in a way, that made other, energy entities, and they can't produce the fruit, but the only way that they can survive, because they can't produce the fruit, survive off the fruit. I mean, you could look at the tale of Thor. He has a goat that he rides around on that helps him move. It's his transportation, but it's also his source of food. But he can resurrect it and then keep moving forward. So it's like when we produce the fruit, we're gathering perpetual energy for ourselves, but we're able to, give that out amongst others because we're very powerful beings. Us as humans are very powerful angelic spirits. And a lot of us don't even realize how powerful we could be. But most of us just kind of listen to the way the world is, and oh, this person's going to start this war with this other thing, and then you get all scared and afraid all the time. It's just all this fear-mongering goes into everything you hear in the news all the time, and then at the end of the day, or 2 years later, nothing happens. So that's another thing that I sort of feel is somewhat vampiric in that sense. And when people tell you that you can't do anything right, and you can't do this and you can't do that because you're just terrible at it, maybe you don't particularly have the skill for it. But if they're trying to hurt you to the core, like what they're saying is sort of hurting you to the core, that's a vampiric spirit working through them to hurt you, because they have not been able to get rid of these spirits. But you're seeing it. So if you're able to see this, it's a whole new thing. If you're just able to see it, it's a whole new thing. But if you've been able to see it for a while, you're like, oh, I see what's going on here. I can tell when these things are going to happen again, and I know how to try to counter it or get away from it altogether. Sometimes you can help these people. And sometimes it's important to actually try to help these people. If you think that they would want your help, their loved ones, their family, their friends, and you really feel like they actually want your help. Because the thing is, it's even stated in the Bible earlier, if, you try to take a spirit out of a person, an evil spirit out of a person, it'll go in a desert, find out that it can't, survive there, and it'll gather more spirits to come back to attack that person. So you can't force it out of that person. That's not the way it needs to be. They have to be willing to. But some of these people that have been taken over by vampiric spirits, and it's not always the most extreme case possession. Most people have a little bit of some vampiric spirits always floating around, wanting them to do this and do that. And sometimes you can get affected by it too. You have to find out what that is and cut it out. Like when Jesus was saying, like, yeah, it's better for you to have something cut off than to be thrown in Armageddon. You know, be half a person going to heaven than a whole person going to hell. It's basically, he's not saying like you have to cut off literally. Most of his stuff is basically an understanding that you have to find the source of the spirituality, the mental process that makes these things happen, and you have to cut out the bad. It's like when you get fruit, you cut out the parts you don't eat. It's like when you are, you know, like if you have a rotten piece of fruit and you still want to eat it, you cut out the rotten part and then you eat it. It's like it's along those lines. So I mean, vampiric spirits do. I mean, they are a part of reality, and they're here. And I think the fallen angels that are here have duplicated them, and they've made a bunch of them. So there's a bunch of little vampiric spirits just floating all over the place. Now, sometimes they'll come and attack you random points in time. Sometimes they'll attack somebody else to attack you at a random point in time. And for me personally, I just feel like this happens almost on a daily. You know, I've seen other people like come and say things to me that are just super, like, you're just crossing the line there, you know, and like what you're saying, it could be really, really hurtful to me, but there's times it does hurt, but there's also times I've just gained the strength to go, you know what, I'm just not going to let this affect me. I'm not going to let it affect me. And it's up to you to gather your own strength to push through this. And sometimes it's really hard. Sometimes you need somebody else to help you out, but sometimes it might be too much, especially if you haven't ever fought against any of this stuff before. You might have to flee in a spiritual sense. I mean, you can't ever totally outrun this stuff. It's always around you, but you have to flee in a spiritual sense. Sometimes you need some meditation. Sometimes you need to talk to somebody that really does care and love you to help bring you back to this point of strength, because we all have this immense amount of strength within us that most people don't even tap into, because they just think, oh, the way the world and the government tells me these things, they know everything. No, they don't. They're corporations, and they're made to take your money. Plain and simple. We live in a world where we're trying to balance everything all the time. Most of these governments, most of everything is just, they were initially designed to help, but as it grows, it's like, what's the saying? Like the good character grows to the bad character. Like if you read Beowulf, initially he's like good guy, in the end he's sort of the bad guy. Most of these corporations and things usually grow up into being very corrupt systems because they realize, oh, they can make money, and they have free and clear ability to do so without anybody really standing in their way. I mean, you could look at our government system. There are certain things within our government that cannot be questioned no matter what, not even by our court systems. And they just get away with stuff. And you wonder, like, why is all this corrupt stuff getting away? Why are they getting away with all this stuff? Because they've built it into that system that it cannot be, you can't do anything to it. You know? So, I mean, if you're trying to look for something to help you in a spiritual sense, to feel better, don't look for governments or corporations to do so. Look for friends and family that love you to do so. And as they do so, you can also reflect it back to them and grow that love that you are gaining. And as that grows, it bounces off of itself. It makes it bigger and bigger and bigger. And the more we actually do this as people, for everybody we know, it's like the pass it on rule. Or, I don't know if I'm saying it right, but as you do one little nice thing for somebody else, they do one little nice thing for somebody else, and it just, you know, it goes on and on and on. If you're looking for making a world, a perfect world, like a heaven on earth, like some people and people do this bloodletting. I shouldn't do any bloodletting at all. There's no need for any of that. I don't believe that at all. For any kind of society, do not spill your blood to make a pact. Never, ever do that. I never did it, but I know within my heart that is like completely the wrong thing to do. If you really want the heaven on earth, though, it's the pass it on system. That's all it is. It's super simple. It's so simple that I didn't even have to make a video this long explaining it. But the fact is, most people need to have something explained in such a way that it helps them get to that point of understanding. Whereas that's why Jesus was talking parables initially, because if he just said, just be good and nice to everybody, I mean, do you think the message would have carried on for 2,000 years? Do you think it'd be 2018 right now? Do you think the understanding of all that would be where we are? He had to say it in such a complicated way for the people that are looking for complications, and in a simple way for people that are looking for simplifications. And he mixed it together, and it made a perfect message. And that's really all I got to say with that. And so, vampiric spirits, be careful. If you need to get up and move, to put yourself in the right spot, to help yourself get better, you got to do so. This is your life. You have to live it, and you have to make it. If you're looking to make heaven, you got to find the best way to get there. Once you're strong enough, then you can start to brush that stuff aside. But that's the reason why some of these other things that people will talk about, like, oh, you got to have this much knowledge to move forward in this Freemason society, or, to gain more light and stuff like that. It's like, I've had family members that were in that, and I'm not. And I understand, like, some other religious organizations or other, things that will talk about, you need to do this step and this step to move up, and then you'll gain more knowledge and stuff. It's a pyramid scheme, really, in the end. But the point is, I made my point. I'm done. There's nothing more to say with that. Just be careful with the vampiric spirits. Recognize it if you know that you've never fought against it before and you're not strong enough. Maybe at some point in your life, it might be kind of hard. You might have to take a break and meditate. Think about your life. Think about where you're going. Try to recalibrate and just become better. And if you got to jump out of the situation for a second and be around people that really love you and really do care about you, you got to do that too. You got to take care of yourself. You really do. A lot of people think that you're going to come to one person, they're going to save you, they're going to help you get there. No, it's on you. Even my message to you is to help you, but it's not me that's doing the work for you. You can't pray to me and I will get you there. I won't. It's on me to get me there. It's on you to get you there. Everything's a personal growth through life. And some people want to just go, and when you're a child, you want to lean on your parents and hope they provide for you all the time. And some people never grow out of this. Some people never literally grow up. And they feel that they need to, suckle off of this person's income or, this person's lifestyle or something like that in order to feel comfortable. But you can never become that ultimate spirit, that ultimate child of God, daughter of God, son of God, until you start to grow yourself. And to do so, these vampiric spirits, you got to cut them off. You got to cut them off every time. And when you recognize that, you don't need to go and attack these people that have been afflicted by this. There's plenty of people that are afflicted by this. I'm just saying, a lot of people have this. And sometimes it'll come to you and it'll attach to you sometimes. And then once you recognize it, you get rid of it. And you grow and you become better. So don't attack other people. There's no point in that. The point is, if you want to share the love that you have been taught and understand about the source creation of God, you need to be that. And to be that, you need to surround yourself with some of those people sometimes in order to be able to start having that strength, that fortitude, to be able to do it as well, do it better, So, just like it says in the Bible, be gentle as doves and wise as serpents. So know their game, but don't play their game. So that's all I got to say. Have a great night, and I'll bring out another one of these messages tomorrow, which I'm just going to do tonight because I've got the time and I've got the energy. So have a great night. Go with Christ, and take care.